The moment the out-of-control truck barreled toward Chloe, I shoved her out of the way on pure instinct. As my world faded to black, I held her hand, my heart full of regret. 36 years married to me. Was there ever a single moment you felt something? The way she instinctively furrowed her brow, that cool, detached look, immediately brought to mind the love letters she kept in the safe deposit box, treasures I knew weren't mine. I understood then that I shouldn't have held on to any hope. In the last second of my life, I leaned close to her ear and whispered, "In the next life, I'm done loving you." When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. Life is too short. This time, I was going to love myself. I would never again force Chloe to honor our family's arrangement. But I never expected that the brilliant girl on the verge of sweeping the International Math Olympiad would decide she wanted to go through the college application grind with me. The second I saw her, I grabbed my backpack and bolted. But she was faster, hooking an arm around my neck with a deceptively sweet smile. "Finn Carter, you think you can just die without my permission? And then have a nerve to say you won't love me anymore?" I blinked, and I was back at the senior pep rally. I stared at the sea of students around me, then at the principal on stage, delivering a fiery speech. It hit me. I had been reborn. It seemed even fate had taken pity on my unrequited love in my past life. Given a fresh start, I wasn't about to waste it chasing a girl who didn't want me. But the guys next to me were nudging me, whispering excitedly, "Finn, what are you spacing out for? Go give it to her. Hurry up. The principal can't see from up there." That's when I noticed the folded note in my hand, the one I'd written for Chloe. There was no way I was giving this to her. Not again. In my past life, desperate to prove my love, I'd chosen this exact day to confess my feelings. But she had taken the note and, in front of everyone, walked straight to the principal, reporting me for harassment and distracting her from her studies. I was publicly reprimanded and became the school's laughingstock. Without a second thought, I tore the note to shreds. My action sent a ripple of confusion through the crowd. Chloe, her brow knitted in a frown, walked directly toward me and held out her hand. "Give it to me." Like hell I would. I straightened up, pretending to be engrossed in the principal's speech. But Chloe simply reached into my jeans pocket and pulled out the torn pieces of paper. As I watched in stunned silence, she walked away with the confetti of my confession. Was this the same cold, unapproachable genius I remembered? Just as I braced for her to march to the principal's office like before, she returned to her spot in the bleachers, glanced back at me, and smiled. It was the first time she had ever smiled at me. The smile was a little stiff, unnatural, but it was there. That single expression kept me in a daze for the rest of the assembly. Chloe was universally acknowledged as the school's beautiful, untouchable genius. Because of a long-standing understanding between our families, she was often the target of my unwanted advances as her self-proclaimed fiancé. The first time she'd ever initiated a conversation with me was after winning the national math competition. Her voice was laced with desperation. "Finn Carter, just say you don't want to marry me. I'll agree to any condition you want." I glanced at a boy standing a short distance away and suddenly understood everything. She had looked at me then, her eyes burning with hope, but this family pact wasn't something I could just cancel on a whim. Chloe was forced to be my wife for 36 years. She refused to have children, and no matter how hard I tried, I could never warm her heart. Not even for a single smile. Our 36-year marriage was proof that forcing us together made both our lives miserable. And even at my death, a death I met protecting her, she never felt a flicker of emotion for me. Not even a hint of panic. I dug my nails into my thigh, forcing myself to stop being a pathetic idiot over a woman who would never love me. "Finn, slow down, she's coming. Time for plan B," my best friend, Mark, whispered, glancing over his shoulder at Chloe while giving me a conspiratorial look. Usually, I'd seize any opportunity to be near her, even for a second. But now, I grabbed Mark's arm and picked up the pace toward our classroom. "Dude, what's with you today?" I thought the plan was to go all out for love. Who's going all out? Women only slow a man down. From the corner of my eye, I saw Chloe getting closer, and a strange panic set in. When Mark tried to shove a bouquet of roses he'd prepared for me in my hands, I broke into a full sprint toward the classroom. I'd given up on Chloe. Why would I still be chasing her? In my eyes, she was now a force of nature to be avoided, a siren luring me away from my chance at a new life. I just reached the classroom door when Mark grabbed me, refusing to let me in. He looked from the roses in his hand to my face, his expression pure confusion. This wasn't part of the plan. Are you sick or something? He even pressed his hand to my forehead. No fever. So what about these flowers? "Finn Carter, what are you two doing now?" Did the principal's speech go in one ear and out the other? Seeing our homeroom teacher, Mr. Lewis, appear out of nowhere, an idea struck me. I presented the roses to him. Mr. Lewis, these are for you. Thank you for not giving up on me. I've seen the light. From this day forward, I'm going to be a serious student. Mr. Lewis awkwardly took the roses. Just staying out of trouble would be thanks enough. And next time, spare me the cheesy theatrics. It's embarrassing. He walked away, holding the bouquet with a pained expression. He was a smart guy. His final glance toward Chloe, who was watching from the crowd, told me he saw right through my act, but chose not to call me on it. With a hot potato passed on, I ignored the shocked expressions of the onlookers and turned to enter the classroom. But Mark stopped me again. Lewis is gone. Time for Plan C. I glanced at Chloe, who was staring at me with an intense, unreadable look. Something felt off. Get to class and study. I barked, mimicking Mr. Lewis's tone. The crowd of students erupted. Is it just me? Or is something weird going on? Is Finn playing hard to get? I think it's working. Did you see the way Chloe was looking at him? Looks like Finn might actually win her over after all. I stumbled as I walked into the classroom. Don't you people have anything better to do? Don't you have to study? Did you forget everything the principal just said? We're just classmates. What's all this nonsense you're spouting? Declaring publicly that there was nothing between us. That had to be what she wanted, right? But Chloe walked toward me, her face a mask of disbelief. Finn, what does that supposed to mean? I couldn't help but frown. She was talking to me again? What was wrong with this woman? Is it that hard to understand plain English? What was her deal? When I confessed my feelings, it was wrong. Now that I was creating distance, that was wrong too. So frustrating. First, she took the torn-up note from my pocket, and now this. Her bizarre behavior only reinforced my belief that women were the most complicated creatures on the planet. I'd spent a lifetime trying to figure her out and failed. Now, I genuinely had no interest in trying again. Only after I'd settled into my seat did Chloe finally leave our classroom. Under the dumbfounded gazes of my classmates, I pulled out a textbook and started to study. Mark plopped into the seat next to me, slinging an arm around my shoulders. Damn, Finn, you switch up the game plan and don't tell your boy? So what's the next move? What do you need me to do? I shot him an annoyed look. I need you to go study, so when you bomb the SATs your dad doesn't beat you, and then you come crying to me. Mark's family was loaded. He'd be fine even if he didn't get into college, aside from a few lectures from his father. Now he looked genuinely shocked. Finn, you're not actually giving up? Are you? Are you sure? I heard she has a crush on someone. That's perfect. I don't want to marry her anyway. What? I don't want to spend my life chasing someone who doesn't love me. This time around, I wanted to focus on working with my dad and growing the family business. If I was lucky enough to meet a girl who actually looked at me like I was her whole world, I wouldn't let her down. We'd have a kid or two, and I could have a happy, loving family like my parents. Mark stared at me for a moment. Then his expression shifted to one of pure admiration. Finn, I don't know what happened to make you see the light, but whatever it is, I support you, man. That evening, I brought up the idea of formally ending the arrangement with Chloe to my parents. The slices of watermelon they were holding slipped from their hands and splattered on the floor. Son, don't you love Chloe more than life itself? In my past life, it was my all-consuming public love for her that convinced her grandfather to never break the pact, right up to his death. It made Chloe believe I had manipulated the situation to force her to marry me. Just as I was about to explain, the doorbell rang. I never thought in a million years that Chloe, who usually avoided me like the plague, would show up at my door. As I stared at her, completely baffled, Chloe spoke. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, with the SATs just around the corner. Finn said he wants to study hard. I'd like to tutor him. Who needs you to tutor them? Can't I just hire a professional? I practically jumped out of my skin. She should be focusing on her math Olympiad, not tutoring me. Wasn't she worried her crush would get jealous? I was confident that if I put in the effort, I could get into a decent university on my own. Why waste the money? It's settled. I'll tutor you after school from now on. Before I could refuse, Chloe turned and left, leaving me and my parents staring at each other in bewilderment. Son, my dad said with a grin, looks like your persistence is finally paying off. I couldn't manage a smile. I'd have to be an idiot to keep chasing an iceberg that would never melt. Don't take her seriously. She was probably just joking. The only logical explanation was that my failure to confess at the rally and my public declaration of US being just classmates had embarrassed her. Or maybe she wanted to use tutoring as an excuse to convince me to break the engagement. That had to be it. The next morning, as I walked into school rubbing the sleep from my eyes, I ran right into Chloe. I glanced at her, didn't even say hello, and started to walk past. She grabbed my arm. Finn, are you blind? Her tone sent a shiver down my spine, waking me up instantly. That was the Chloe I remembered from my past life. The one who spoke with such a cold edge, I often wondered if she was a robot, incapable of human emotion. Her 98.6-degree mouth always produced such icy words. Except, this time, there was a hint of hurt in her voice. I immediately shook my head. I must have misheard. What is it? Chloe looked at me for a few seconds with an unreadable expression, then handed me a warm breakfast burrito and a thick binder filled with handwritten notes. Here, for you. What the hell was going on? It had always been me waiting outside her classroom, trying to give her things. What was she up to? As I stood there, stunned, Chloe pushed the items into my hands and quickly walked away. I went back to my desk, as if in a dream. The breakfast burrito was my favorite kind, with extra bacon. The last page of the notes looked like the ink was still drying. I noticed the dark circles under her eyes and wondered if she'd stayed up all night writing this. The thought had barely formed before I smacked myself on the side of the head. Stop fantasizing, you idiot. Mark, recovering from a shock, leaned over with a sleazy grin. You sly dog, holding out on me with news this big. He snatched the binder and started flipping through it, making tisk-tisk sounds. Man, and here I was, so worried about you being heartbroken I almost couldn't sleep. Turns out you've already conquered the goddess. Not cool, man, not cool. As he flipped through the pages, 2 loose sheets of paper fell out. One of them I recognized instantly. The letter Chloe had kept locked away in her safe, a treasure she valued more than the $1 million jewelry I'd given her, which she just tossed aside. She had called it the love letter she never sent. The memory sent a sharp pang through my chest. The other paper landed in Mark's hand. Whoa, Finn, is this a study schedule Chloe made for you? No wonder you said you were going to study hard. This is your new strategy to win her over, huh? My face darkened as I glanced at the schedule before snatching it and tossing it into the trash. Bullshit. What makes you think she's my girl? Mixing an unsent love letter into my study notes. It was obvious she was trying to make me back off, especially since the letter was mostly just a series of complex calculus equations with very few words. I knew what it was. It was a private joke between her and her crush, a mathematical code only they could understand. The thought made my blood boil. The breakfast burrito she'd given me followed the schedule into the trash. As for the notes, I had to admit they were incredibly detailed and perfect for someone like me who was starting from behind. That evening, on my way home from school, my head was still spinning with formulas and historical dates. When I got home, my mom greeted me with a mysterious smile. Son, go to the study. There's a surprise waiting for you. My mom loved planning surprises for my dad, so I opened the study door with a sense of anticipation, only to walk straight into someone. Chloe, what took you so long to get home? I looked back at my mom, and it clicked. This was her surprise, more like a jump scare. Chloe's scolding tone was eerily similar to the flat. In different ways, she used to speak to me in our past life whenever I came home late from a business dinner. Except tonight, her voice held a hint of playful annoyance. Playful? The thought sent a chill down my spine. I must be developing some serious delusions after a lifetime of unrequited love. What are you doing here? It's late. People will get the wrong idea if they see you. But Chloe just curved her lips into a slight smile. What wrong idea? There's nothing shameful about me tutoring you. I told you I don't need you to tutor me. I studied all day. I'm exhausted. As expected, the moment I tried to show her the door, that faint smile vanished, and her face reverted to its usual icy mask. Fine. I'll come back tomorrow. You're coming back? Before I could say more, she had already turned and jogged out the door. I couldn't help but wonder if I'd said something wrong. For a second, it looked like she might have been crying. I immediately dismissed the thought. Chloe had never shown any emotional response to me, let alone tears. The memory of her cold, impassive face, even as I lay dying, strengthened my resolve. I had to end this engagement. Soon. For the next week, Chloe was busy with the International Math Olympiad and was completely out of my sight. I felt a strange sense of loss, but knew that breaking an old habit took time. As long as I didn't chase her, she would surely keep her distance. Besides, I knew what was coming. Soon, I was supposed to be cornered in an alley and beaten up by her obsessive suitor. The memory of being hospitalized in my past life made my stomach clench. But this time, I hadn't provoked Chloe, so I probably wouldn't have to deal with that psycho, right? Unfortunately, not long after I left school, a group of guys holding baseball bats surrounded me. Finn Carter, you've got some nerve. It was happening earlier. Did my change in behavior cause the timeline to shift? A wise man knows when to back down. I immediately put on my most pathetic face. Guys, let's talk this out. No need for violence. but they just exchanged smirks, and the bats came swinging toward me. I shut my eyes and braced for the impact, resigning myself to my fate. But a moment passed, and the blows never landed. Instead, a familiar, pleasant scent filled the air, and I was pulled into a soft embrace. When I heard a muffled grunt of pain, I whipped my head around and saw something that shocked me to my core. The person shielding me like a mother hen protecting her chick was Chloe. Her fair skin turned even paler as a bat connected with her back. I scrambled to my feet and pulled her away, checking her for injuries. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" My voice was filled with a fear I couldn't hide. The memory of my own beating flooded back, and I could only imagine the pain she was in. "Chloe, I'm so sorry. I saw it was you too late to stop. I didn't mean to hit you. Does it hurt?" "I'm so sorry." Her crazy suitor, Wyatt, had already dropped his bat and was frantically apologizing to her. Chloe pushed my hands away. Under Wyatt's hopeful gaze, she picked up a bat from the ground and started hammering him with it, blow after blow. As she swung, her voice was ice. "If I hadn't come, were you going to kill him?" Wyatt was caught completely off guard. His friends raised their bats to defend him, but he waved them off. "Chloe, no way. I was just going to teach him a lesson, get him to stop bothering you. I'm a law-abiding citizen." Bullshit. My image of Chloe as a lofty, untouchable goddess shattered. After beating someone with a bat, she had just spat. She spat at Wyatt. Wyatt and I both froze. Before I could process it, Wyatt's face twisted in pain. "Chloe, how could you protect this loser? I thought you hated him." He looked betrayed, his eyes welling up. Chloe lifted her chin defiantly. "Why wouldn't I protect him? Am I supposed to just let you assault him? And when did I ever say I hated him?" She pointed the bat at him. "If I ever see you lay a finger on Finn again, I swear I'll call the cops and have you arrested." I rubbed my eyes and then my ears. The scene unfolding before me was so surreal it felt like a dream. I never would have dared to imagine something like this. In my past life, I was dragged into that alley and beaten so badly I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Chloe never once came to see me. Later, her crush showed up at the hospital on her behalf. "Stay away from Chloe if you don't want to die," he'd said. "Next time, it'll be worse than a hospital stay." Finn Carter, had never been so humiliated. I was ready to fight him right there, but the coward turned and ran, leaving me with a belly full of rage and nowhere to vent it. Sometime after that, the Sullivan family business ran into trouble, and Chloe's grandfather had her brought back from overseas to marry me. I knew you couldn't force love, but I wanted to try to see if my devotion could finally melt her heart. Turns out, I just wasted a lifetime. Thinking of this, the small flicker of gratitude I'd felt for Chloe shielding me was extinguished. "Thank you. Do you need me to take you to the hospital?" Seeing the way she'd just handled Wyatt, I figured she was probably fine. He'd clearly pulled his punch at the last second, not like the brutal beating he gave me in the past. She immediately dropped the bat, her brow furrowed as she put on a pained, fragile expression. "Finn, it hurts so much. Can you take me to the hospital?" I held my breath. Was she flirting with me? My entire body froze, my eyes wide as I stared at her. I was just being polite. I fully expected her to refuse. Given that she was the only woman I'd ever loved, my experience with the opposite sex was zero. All I had to go on were the things I'd picked up from watching my parents, and my limited knowledge told me she was playing victim. The realization was so shocking my jaw almost hit the pavement. Wyatt, witnessing this drastic personality shift, looked just as dumbfounded as I did. In the end, I reluctantly took Chloe to the ER, and just as I'd suspected, she had nothing more than a minor muscle contusion. The doctor, seeing us in our school uniforms, hesitated before launching into a lecture. "You should be focusing on your studies at your age. There will be plenty of time for romance later." Both Chloe and I turned beet red. "Doctor, you got it wrong. We're just classmates." Chloe immediately shot me a glare, her eyes full of reproach. Seriously, what was her deal? The change was so drastic, it was like she was a completely different person. Considering all her recent strange behavior, a terrifying thought popped into my head. Could she have been reborn, too? But I immediately shot the idea down. If she was reborn, wouldn't she want me as far away from her as possible? If I were her, I'd be ecstatic, free to be with my real crush and make up for a lifetime of regret. Why on earth would she be getting closer to me? Outside the hospital, Chloe tugged at the corner of my shirt, her lower lip pushed out in a pout. "Why did you deny our relationship?" Her eyes, which for a lifetime had been like frozen pools of indifference, were now glistening like a fawn I'd just kicked. "That day, you were going to confess to me. Why did you give the roses to your teacher?" The resentment in her voice was impossible to ignore. Was this some kind of twisted joke? "You don't know what you have until it's gone?" I'd heard that girls like the feeling of being pursued. Was Chloe no exception? I shook my head vigorously. This was Chloe, the mathematical genius, with an unshakably stable mind and spirit. She had once told me her world consisted of only two things, mathematics and her one true love. And that person was clearly not me. You're mistaken. You don't actually think I like you, Deep. You. Her eyes grew even wetter. What kind of sorcery was this? In my past life, I had tried every trick the internet suggested, and none of them had caused even the slightest ripple in Chloe's heart. I had spent 36 long years walking on eggshells around her icy demeanor. Offering comfort was wrong. Causing trouble to get her attention was wrong. Nothing I did was ever right. On the rare occasion she'd grant me an extra glance, I'd be so happy I could eat 3 bowls of rice. My past self had been pathetic beyond belief. Even my parents despaired, telling me to have some damn pride. I know you've wanted any engagement for a long time. Next weekend, I'll have my parents talk to your grandfather about it. You don't have to go through all this trouble and pretend just to get me to be the one who calls off. You want to end the engagement? Chloe's voice shot up, and for the first time, I saw a truly vivid, animated side of her. No, no, no. We'll tell everyone it was your decision, that you were the one who broke it off with me. I knew how important reputation was, especially since the Sullivan family's fortunes had declined. If the now powerful Carter family initiated the breakup, Chloe would become a joke in our social circle. This was the last thing I could do for her. Once it was over, we could go our separate ways. She could go abroad with her true love, pursuing her world of mathematics, and I could finally become the heir to the Carter Corporation, taking over so my parents could enjoy the life of travel they always dreamed of. I don't agree. Chloe's words snapped me out of my thoughts. Why not? Isn't this what you've always wanted? These old-fashioned family pacts are ridiculous anyway. It was just a joke between our grandparents. I was wrong to pester you before, and I apologize. It won't happen again. My apology and explanation were as sincere as could be. But Chloe was not satisfied. Her expression screamed, "You're a scumbag." The exact same look my mom gave my dad when he messed up. Not wanting to press my luck, I hailed 2 separate Ubers, one for her and one for me, even though we lived in the same gated community. But Chloe went full-on childish, squatting on the sidewalk and refusing to move. I had to apologize to the driver and cancel the ride. It was late, and I couldn't just leave her out here alone. For God's sake, what do you want from me? You took a hit from me, so you want money? Is that it? I knew she wasn't hurting for cash, but I was out of ideas. Given her family's current situation, they weren't destitute, but who would say no to extra money? My past life Chloe had once told me that a woman's sense of security came from the balance in her bank account. And remembering how she'd called hiring a tutor a waste of money, I thought a cash offer might at least get her off the curb. But she shot to her feet, grabbing my hand and shaking it. "Carry me home on your back." I thought I'd gone deaf. The words were so eerily familiar that I had to seriously reconsider the theory I'd already dismissed. What did you say?" Chloe twisted my ear, her face set in its familiar cold expression. "Finn Carter, are you deaf?" Now that felt familiar. I was now certain. She was reborn just like me. But I couldn't understand why she had changed so much in just a few weeks. Chloe's grip wasn't tight, but when I didn't respond, she gave my ear a gentle twist. "Finn Carter, you've gotten bold, haven't you? You don't even listen to your wife anymore. You really are heartless. Count on your fingers how many times you've tested my patience by ignoring me like this." I wanted to tell her I wasn't ignoring her. I was avoiding her like the plague. But I was a coward. I couldn't bring myself to say something so hurtful to the woman I had loved for a lifetime. "You can't just say things like that. We're just classmates. If the principal heard you, I'd be in trouble again." As the words left my mouth, Chloe looked like she was about to cry. Then, in a huff, she turned and ran off. Worried for her safety, I immediately chased after her, only to see her run straight into the arms of another man. Then came the sound of her unrestrained sobs. The man looked up, his young, intelligent face strangely familiar. It was Leo Chun, Chloe's supposed crush. He stroked her back, comforting her, while shooting me a look that could kill. It all clicked. Chloe had found her protector, which was why she could let her tears flow freely. I had to admit, she'd changed a lot in this life. In the past, her biggest regret was probably losing Leo. Like Chloe, Leo was a rare mathematical talent. In our past life, I couldn't understand a single word of their conversations. But having seen them talk for hours, lost in their own world, I knew they were soulmates. If it hadn't been for Leo's humble background, unable to help the struggling Sullivan family, they would have been the perfect match. Since Leo was here, there was nothing left for me to do. I called another car and went straight home. Strangely, as the car pulled away, I thought I heard someone behind me shouting, "You bastard." I glanced in the rearview mirror. The two of them seemed to be locked in an embrace. I closed my eyes and leaned back, but the crescent-shaped cuts in my palm, where my fingernails had dug into my flesh, told me that I wasn't quite ready to let go of the past so easily. It was a lie to say it didn't hurt. How could it not hurt, seeing the woman you love for a lifetime in another man's arms? When I got home that night, I had a fever. My mom paced around my bed, frantic. "How on earth did you get a fever? You're as strong as an ox. You never get sick." I lay weakly in bed, my head a chaotic mess. "Mom, am I dying?" In my past life, when I died, my parents were already gone. Chloe was cold and distant. I had felt so utterly alone. Now, feeling the warmth of my mother's hand on my forehead, my eyes welled up and tears soaked my pillow. "Frank, your son is definitely lovesick." I heard her tell my dad. "That Chloe girl said she was coming back to tutor him, but she hasn't been here all week. It has to be about that." I drifted off into a feverish sleep, unaware of the dramatic soap opera my mother was concocting in her head. When I was finally well enough to return to school, I found that my new desk mate was Chloe. I froze, walked back out of the classroom, checked the room number 3 times to make sure I wasn't mistaken, and then walked back in. She looked at me, her eyes filled with concern. "Your mom said you were sick. Are you feeling better?" I frowned and answered coolly, "Thanks for asking." With that, I started gathering my books from the desk, ready to move to the empty seat next to Mark. But before I could take a step, Chloe's arms snaked around my neck, pulling me back into my seat. Her arm was soft and carried her familiar, pleasant scent. It was pressed against my neck, and my heart hammered against my ribs. To make matters worse, she leaned in and smiled sweetly. "Finn Carter, daring to die without my permission was one thing, but how dare you have the guts to say you don't love me?" Her words were a bombshell. The entire class fell silent, their jaws on the floor, before they all swarmed around our desks, staring at us like we were a zoo exhibit. Holy crap, that's Finn Carter for you. The guy would literally die for love. No wonder he was out for a few days. He was making a grand romantic gesture. Chloe's mention of me dying had somehow been twisted into a dramatic, love-fueled suicide attempt. Everyone was looking at me with a newfound sense of awe. Her words and actions made it seem like I had finally captured her heart. I lowered my voice, speaking through clenched teeth. "Since you're reborn too, why don't we just leave each other alone? A fresh start isn't meant for repeating the same mistakes. Besides," I added, "this is incredibly unfair to your crush. We were miserable together for a lifetime. This time, why don't we both find our real, true loves? Wouldn't that be better than getting tangled up with each other again?" I had laid all my cards on the table, but Chloe only tightened her grip. The feeling of her body pressed against mine made my face and neck burn. Wolf whistles echoed through the classroom. "Kiss her, kiss her." Mark, of course, was leading the cheer. I wanted to launch myself across the room and kick him, but before I could, Chloe leaned in and planted a quick, firm kiss on my cheek. My legs gave out. I stumbled, lost my balance, and fell right on top of her, pinning her against the chair. Mortification, pure and absolute. Chloe's face was as red as mine. "Finn, you get off." I shot up as if I'd been electrocuted. Shamefully, for a moment there, my heart had fluttered. It had fluttered like crazy. I punched myself lightly in the chest in disgust, then quickly apologized to her. "I'm sorry. Please, just go back to the honors program. I'll arrange a time to come to your house and formally end the engagement. We weren't right for each other. We shouldn't force it." But Chloe's lip trembled, and her eyes welled up. "If you dare to break this engagement, I swear I'll." I immediately slapped my hand over her mouth. I couldn't believe it. It was like being reborn had unlocked some hidden, wild side of her. I could understand flirting and being cute. That was a girl's prerogative. But saying something suggestive and scandalous in front of the whole class? In her past life, she was an ice queen. Now, she was like a siren. The old saying was true. Beauty was a deadly trap. I had to get away from her, or she would be the end of me in this life, too. The chaos finally ended when Mr. Lewis walked into the classroom. "Finn, Chloe has already been accepted to MIT. She has requested to transfer to this class to be with you and help you study for the SATs. She wants to be your peer tutor, so don't you dare make her efforts a failure." Given my track record as a slacker, Mr. Lewis knew exactly how to push my buttons. I stood up and refused righteously. "Mr. Lewis, that's really not necessary. I know my own limits, and I'm not worth Chloe wasting her precious time on me. Besides, my family doesn't need a charity case." I might as well have told him that Chloe's tutoring came with ulterior motives. Thinking about how Wyatt's attack had happened earlier, I had a reasonable suspicion. The Sullivan family was already in financial trouble, and Chloe knew that staying on good terms with my family was the key to their survival. But what I couldn't figure out was, with her abilities, even if her family's business took a temporary hit, she could easily help them recover. Why did she have to latch onto the Carters? More accurately, if she just used her knowledge from our past life, she could make her family invincible right now. She didn't need to resort to seducing me. Yes, that was my bold and reasonable suspicion. Chloe had just been trying to seduce me. My ungrateful attitude didn't seem to bother her. Instead, she just watched me with a goofy grin. I refuse to believe that with my help, I can't get you into an Ivy League school. Are you kidding me? She was making impossible promises now. I shot a desperate, pleading look at Mr. Lewis, but he completely ignored me. All right, Carter, we all know what you've been after. Stop playing coy now that you've gotten what you want. I'm warning you. Don't you dare let me and Chloe down. Or else. In the end, Mr. Lewis couldn't think of a threatening, or else. Ignoring the freezing glare Chloe was sending my way, I went and sat next to Mark. He gave me a thumbs up. Dude, you're on another level. I buried my head in my books, the bitter taste of my situation known only to me. The next day, the media was buzzing with stories about Chloe, the genius girl who had won the math Olympiad. They had even dug up the story of our childhood engagement. That afternoon, Chloe gave an interview. In it, she openly admitted that she was my fiancée. This was getting out of hand. I rushed home from school, only to find my parents excitedly planning a massive birthday party for me. I'd completely forgotten that today was my birthday. And Chloe's. My head was spinning. Who had time for a birthday party? During her interview, Chloe had said that as soon as we were of legal age, we would get married. In my past life, I would have been screaming with joy. But now, knowing she didn't love me, her string of bizarre actions just made me anxious and confused. My parents, however, offered no opinion on the matter. They were acting like they'd won the lottery, grinning from ear to ear as they planned an extravagant birthday gala. To my horror, my mom informed me that the invitations had already been sent out. For 100 tables. I felt like a puppet as my mom dressed me up like a peacock about to display its feathers. Son, you have to be on your best behavior tonight. Mom has everything prepared for you. Was a coming-of-age birthday party really this big of a deal? Feeling completely detached, I followed my mom to the hotel ballroom. It wasn't until someone wheeled a massive, tiered cake toward me that I realized who was emerging from behind it. Chloe. She was wearing a stunning, floor-length crimson gown. The style, the color. Wasn't this something you'd wear to a wedding? And on top of the cake were two little figures kissing. My face fell. Seriously? What are you doing here now? Getting engaged to you, of course. On the large screens around the room, a slideshow of photos of us from childhood to the present day was playing. If it weren't for the genuine smile on Chloe's face, the guests might have thought she was being forced into this. In every single picture, whether it was a solo shot or one with me, she had the same cool, detached expression. Elegant, aloof, otherworldly. And yet, here was that person, standing at our joint birthday party, announcing, "Hello everyone, I'm Finn Carter's fiancée." She was confident, poised, and graceful. She had the bashfulness of an 18-year-old girl mixed with the calm composure of someone who had weathered the storms of a past life. Our families were already leading the applause. The spotlights shone on Chloe, making her look like an angel who had descended to earth. I quickly swallowed and looked away. The event was so huge that I had no choice but to play along. By the time the party ended, I was completely numb. Dad, Mom, what was all that about? Just a birthday party for you two. Happy birthday, son. The huge smiles on my parents' faces and the equally cheerful expressions of the Sullivans were so real that I felt like I was dreaming. What was wrong with these people? Chloe walked over to me, a mischievous glint in her eye. So, did you like the surprise? You orchestrated this? What's your angle? Chloe handed me an envelope. You idiot. From now on, you better study hard. Otherwise, you won't even be able to understand a love letter. I went home in a daze and opened the letter she had given me. It was the same one from our past life, the one she said she never sent. I had thoughtfully returned it to her once. Why was she giving it to me again? Giving it to me? I let out a self-deprecating laugh, took a shower, and went to bed. In the days that followed, Chloe's routine was unshakable. She would wait outside my house every morning with breakfast to walk with me to school. In the classroom, she tutored me relentlessly, barely taking breaks to eat or drink. After school, she didn't go home, but continued the high-intensity tutoring sessions. My mom happily took on the role of our support staff, beaming every day. Son, now that your heart is healed, you won't get sick anymore. It was then that I realized my mom thought I was still hopelessly in love with Chloe, to the point of being physically ill over it. Even more absurdly, my mom, feeling sorry for Chloe, had a guest room next to my bedroom prepared for her, claiming it was more convenient for studying. All my protests were ignored by Chloe. She would just point to my steadily improving grades and my family's rising stock prices and ask with a smile, "Finn, do you really have the heart to shatter your parents' dreams?" She was right. My parents' dream was for me to succeed and for the company to thrive. In my past life, they died in an accident before I ever had a chance to repay them. If I acted selfishly now and let them down, this second chance would be for nothing. Fine, but you need to explain things clearly to your crush. After I get into college, I'll start taking over the family business. Once I'm settled, I'll give you two a huge wedding gift when you get married. It was my way of thanking her for considering my parents' feelings. If we couldn't be husband and wife, maybe we could be friends. Chloe didn't reject my proposal, and I breathed a sigh of relief. We continued this peaceful arrangement until after the SATs were over. "Chloe, thank you for everything these past few months. I can help you." But Chloe just twisted my ear again, her face full of anger. Well, Finn Carter, playing the use them and lose them card, are we?" Hearing her voice, my parents appeared with equally disapproving looks. "You're in for it now, you brat. How many times have I told you? You can mess with anyone, but you don't mess with your wife. If you dare kick my daughter-in-law out, I'll kick you out too," my mom added. I was floored. What kind of magic spell had Chloe cast on my parents to make them turn on me like this? "Mom, Dad, what are you talking about? Chloe and I have an agreement. She has someone she loves. Don't try to force this and make everyone uncomfortable." For that, my ear was twisted into a new shape. Over my yelps of pain, Leo Chan appeared, a look of utter disdain on his face. "Bro, how did a blockhead like you get my sister so obsessed? Wait, why was he here? And what did he just call me? Bro? I didn't know Chloe had a brother." As if reading my mind, Chloe said, "In our past life, I did like him, but it was more of an admiration for his talent. As for you, I felt like we were from two different worlds. But unfortunately for me, I couldn't resist a man who would literally give his life for me." "What do you mean? He's such a blockhead. Did you really think Wyatt was the type to just let you go?" "Oh, right. In this life, Wyatt had completely vanished after that day. So Chloe had nipped that problem in the bud. In our past life, Wyatt beat you so badly you were hospitalized. He secretly bribed a doctor to make sure the damage would leave you sterile. He got his older brother, who was in a gang, to threaten that if you didn't let me go, they would kill you. That's why I begged you to say you would break the engagement. Later, I gathered enough evidence to put Wyatt in prison for a long time. Only then did I dare to come back and marry you. I didn't tell you the truth because I was afraid you'd hate me and refuse to marry me. The Carters only have one heir. If your family knew I was the reason you couldn't have children, our family's friendship would have been over." "Wait, but what about that love letter?" Leo couldn't hold it in any longer. He ran into my study, grabbed a pen and paper, and started sketching furiously. When he was done, a three-dimensional heart, constructed from equations, and my initials F. "See, we're on the page. You idiot. That was my sister's unique kind of love letter. You are so dumb. You couldn't even figure that out. You deserve all the misery you got." Being called out by my supposed love rival was especially painful. Chloe had long since let go of my ear. She gently took my hand, her fingers intertwining with mine. "Honey, in our past life, when you died saving me, I didn't dare show any emotion. I was afraid you wouldn't be able to rest in peace if you saw me falling apart. I know I was cold to you before, which made you think I didn't have you in my heart. But I'm not made of stone. You were good to me for a lifetime. How could I not fall for you? I thought you liked my cool, aloof persona, so I kept up the act for our whole lives, never letting myself relax. Thank God fate took pity on me and gave me a chance to be my true self. In my world, both in the past life and this one, my true love comes first. Mathematics is a distant second, and that true love is you." Chloe's confession made my parents burst into tears, hugging each other dramatically. After they composed themselves, my dad smacked me on the back of the head. "You are unbelievably stupid. You can't even tell when a girl loves you. How did I raise such a clueless kid?" I glanced at my mom with a look that said, "I'm completely innocent here. Growing up in a house where my parents were constantly and openly affectionate, I just assumed all love looked like theirs. Who knew?" Chloe wrapped her arms around me. "You big dummy. If I hadn't been smart enough to tell Mom and Dad about us being reborn, would you really have never loved me again?" I nodded instantly, then under the murderous glares of everyone in the room, quickly shook my head. Thinking back on my past life with Chloe, it was true. Aside from being distant and not having children with me, She had been a flawless wife, and the not having children part wasn't even her fault. It was mine. The thought made me feel even more ashamed about the resentment I'd held against her for taking that hit from Wyatt. When the SAT scores were released, I didn't get into MIT, but I did get into a top-tier university. I chose one close to Chloe's school, fulfilling her wish for us to go to college together. Perhaps fate gave us a second chance, so we could clear up our misunderstandings and fill our lives with what we'd missed. Our life, together, had finally begun. This time, I had a girl whose eyes were only for me. Our family of 4 lived happily ever after.